Starfleet and to each other. A weak writer or weak actors would have made this scene about yelling at each other. But you can feel the tension between them as the actors work to keep their emotions in check, and the writers use the audience's ignorance of Remek's true motives to build sympathy with the characters. By the time Riker storms out of the ready room, we're as suspicious of Remek as they are, and the stakes have been raised considerably. When Remek wants to interview Riker, we cheer when Riker tells him to go fuck himself. Back in the testing facility, the finalists finish the first round of questions. They all answer correctly, except for Oleana, who can't get her answer in before time runs out. She stands up and says, "Math is hard. I wish I could major in shopping and boys." Wesley says that she shouldn't be so hard on herself, as he sure would like to be. Even though it looks like everything in the world comes easily to him, he really does have to work hard from time to time. Just not very often, not when it matters, and certainly never in an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. "If you're lucky you're cute, Wesley Crusher," she says, "or you could be really obnoxious." Wesley turns to Mordok and goes, "Hey Mordok, did you hear that? She thinks I'm cute." Girls in the audience go, "Duh." Guys wait for their modems to connect to Usenet. Back on the bridge, Riker apologizes to Picard for harshing his mellow, but Picard tells him that Remek's harshing everyone's mellow. Not to worry about it. Just then, Remek shows up to harsh their mellow. He drags Riker into the ready room for a mellow harshing interview. Once alone, Remek wants to know if Picard has ever falsified a log entry. But then we see Remek asking Geordi all about the events of the Naked Now, followed by him asking Troy about the events of the battle. In each scene, he's questioning Picard's competence, and it's starting to look like Picard is under investigation. But for what? Before we can really get a good montage going, though, we cut to an empty holodeck where we find Wesley Crusher leaning up against the wall, wistfully gazing at a pad. Before the porn music can start, Worf interrupts him and offers to leave. Wesley tells him that he thought he wanted to be alone, but it turns out that he'd actually like Worf to stick around. Now the porn music starts. As the seeds for hundreds of thousands of fan fiction stories are planted with just a few words and a guy delivering a pizza. All kidding aside, it's another surprisingly good scene where we learn a great deal about Worf and something about Wesley too. Wesley is freaking out about the upcoming psych test. He tells Worf that the psych test will be based on his deepest fear, and he doesn't know what his deepest fear is. So he was trying to come up with some terrifying images to put into the holodeck. He says, "What should I try? I already went through the math test where I didn't know the answer. Then I did the physics test where I didn't know the answer. The astronomy test where I didn't know the answer. And sex ed." Worf tells him that Starfleet is really good at analyzing psychological profiles to uncover these things. Wesley says that he thought Klingons weren't afraid of anything. And Worf tells him that it's very difficult for him to rely on anyone, especially for his life. Wesley asks Worf how he got over his fear, and Worf tells him that he hasn't. Whoa, that's like Kadeep Gakcho. That's how Klingons talk to each other when they're high. Targ, bog, head, skull. Look next. I don't know. I know as much about Klingons as I know about stoners, which is 0. So jumping to the end of the episode. So Wesley, of course, Wesley blows it. Wesley, he barely gets through the psych test, where they make him think he's gonna die, because that's awesome. And then Wesley, whose whole goal in life is to get into Starfleet Academy. It's what he wants more than anything. It's what he's been groomed for. In the final test, when he could just breeze through it and lock it all down, leaves his test to go help the only other person in the room who has a possible chance at all of beating him. It's like you're in the World Series, it's the bottom of the 9th inning, and the catcher goes, "Here comes a curveball." Oh, thank you, I really appreciate it. Rogers will ever win. Wesley goes back to the Enterprise, and he's sad. Sad face, sad times, Wesley. It's awful. He's in the observation lounge, which is where you go to feel sad and sorry for yourself before they build the 10 forward 6. Doesn't exist. It's only 7, a lot of windows in it. So Wesley's wistfully feeling sorry for himself and looking out the window, looking into deep space, thinking, where am I going to be in 5 years? Picard walks in. And Wesley says that he failed the test, he failed Picard, he failed the Enterprise, he failed his hairdresser. Picard tells him to chill the fuck out. Because the only person he's really competing against is himself. Now, if I can take a personal moment here, saying I'm taking a personal moment makes more sense in the context of the book. I really wish I'd been paying closer attention to this dialogue when we were filming the scene, instead of wondering if we were going to wrap early enough for me to go to my friend's house so I could play Car Wars. Because it's really great advice. It's delivered with tremendous compassion and simplicity, and is essentially the conclusion that I reached after years of hanging on the proof to everyone that quitting Star Trek wasn't a mistake cross. Lovingly detailed in my book, Just a Geek, which makes a fantastic gift. Picard then tells Wesley a secret. He also failed his first Starfleet Academy entrance test. And if Wesley tells anyone he told him that, Picard will give Trekkies their Christmas wish and put Wesley in the airlock. Admiral Quinn comes in and he says that he wishes he could change Picard's mind and convince Picard to leave the Enterprise and become Commandant of Starfleet Academy, which really has no purpose at all other than tying the A and B stories in the episode together. Picard says that he really appreciates the offer, but he belongs on the Enterprise. Up until this point in the season, the audience hasn't been so sure, but after this appropriately titled episode, it's hard to disagree. The end.